Hey guys, welcome to Smith's Kitchen. Brian, Kitchen. Kind of goes without saying, huh? I'm Mr. Smith. Welcome. If you're new to my channel, I'm glad you found me, and I hope you get something out of my channel. We're here to pretty much just document my life, my family's life, for preservation of future generations so they know more than just a name. But, I mean, we do a lot of different things. Some cooking, some baking, some woodworking. All kinds of stuff. Always conversation. Which today we're going to have a conversation. I got a lot on my mind. And if there's anything ever that you want to talk about, just comment down below, and I'll, do some research on it, and we'll talk about it, or as much as I can. When I do talk, I kind of just, I'm like Switzerland, kind of neutral. I have my opinions, and sometimes I express them, but, I just want you to be informed more than anything. I don't want you to, I want you to make your own decisions. I'm thinking about it. Don't forget to subscribe down below. Notification bell right next to that if you want to know when my videos come out. I'm always honored and privileged to come in if you take time out of your day to listen to what I have to say, or cook with me, or bake with me. Thumbs up, thumbs down, or mood point really. But they're always appreciated. Comments, love comments. That's what stirs conversation, right? Or questions, or just conversation in general. And only thing I ask is that you don't have to agree with me, but think before you type. We need to have respectful things. Our community here is a good community. We all try to be good neighbors, and it's okay to not agree, but do it in a polite way. That's all I ask. So that being said, things I got on my mind, some of them were, and I wrote some of them down. I want to celebrate, and I don't remember her name, and shame on me for not remembering, but she's a teacher in North Carolina. And they celebrated her on Good Morning America. I probably could have looked her name up, and like I said, shame on me for not. But they were celebrating her. They about once a week they find somebody to celebrate that does good in their community, and this teacher is absolutely amazing. She started out with the kids in her school during breaks, summertime, and even during just normal times through the school day couldn't afford to eat. Their parents are poor, impoverished, in a bad situation, whatever. But these kids were going hungry. They were going out without meals. So she started out feeding just a few kids in her school, taking care of them, which led to all the kids who couldn't eat in her school. And she raises money. She has a thing on Facebook, and she's huge on social media with raising money for her cause, to the point where now she's able to get groceries for families. And they showed a picture of her latest load, and it was two giant U-Haul trucks with 1,000 bags of groceries sending out to these families, which is amazing. Now, but at the same time, it concerns me that, I know what you're thinking, I'm going to say that, people are donating towards this. No, it concerns me that we even have to celebrate this. It concerns me that there are families in such need in our country, with us being the most amazing country in the world, that can't afford to put food on the table. It's one of the most basic things in the world. That is mind-boggling that happens. How did we let that happen? That's probably a whole video on itself, in and of itself. It shouldn't happen. There should never be a child that goes hungry, and we shouldn't have to be raising money to feed our future. That's what it comes down to. What kind of adults are we? What kind of society are we that we have to, that we can't just be equal enough to at least feed our kids, and our adults. I can kind of, I get laziness, and that should never be rewarded. But I'm thinking more of those people who work hard every day and still can't put a meal on their table. That concerns me a little, especially when we can raise money to help a dog get surgery. Now that I'm against pets, I have a dog, I have fish, I love my pets, but at the same time, if we can raise money quickly to help a dog get a new kidney or take a medicine or have a surgery, then there's no reason why these kids should ever be going hungry to begin with. Some of it could be self-efficiency. You could say, well, these kids aren't eating nutritional meals. They're not getting good, wholesome fruits and vegetables. Well, the quick solution to that is, you buy them food. You buy the family food, you get family food. But what if, along with giving that family the food they need to survive, we give them some seeds to start growing and to teach them how to grow? So that way they have nutritional foods. That way they're not starving all the time. Twinkies aren't the answer. Unfortunately, our society is set up where if it's good for you, wholesome, and nutritious, it's expensive, and it shouldn't be. Where on the other hand, you can buy a box of snack cakes and a box of macaroni and cheese on the cheap, which isn't healthy for you. Those preservatives, those meals in a box, yes, they're convenient to have. We have some here. It's not like, our family is all natural, no additives, no preservatives. There are times that we need that, whether it be for a quick meal on a night where things are just going amok and we got a lot going on, or for our kid downstairs for when we're locked in for long periods of time. Yes, those things are necessary, but they're not something we should be living on. Growing up, meat has never been like extraordinarily cheap, so to speak, but lunch meat was, to make sandwiches with, we grew up on it. I grew up in a single parent household, and we grew up on hamburger and chicken and lunch meat. I mean, those were our meats. And now, my God, even cheap hamburger is what expensive hamburger did cost. Which leads me into my next subject altogether. Is the cost of things. And this deserves to be celebrated to some extent, but I don't think it needs to be completely celebrated. The whole truth, it wasn't told. All right, the big picture wasn't told. I won't say the whole truth wasn't told, but only half the picture was shown. On the news the other morning, they were celebrating the job numbers. And how there are now more people back to work than ever. We're doing well. We're people are getting jobs. They're finally getting their heads out of their asses, so to speak, and they're going back to work, which is great. And they said that the biggest growth in employment was in retail and the food service industry, and how the wages had gone up on average by 5.7%. Which, quite honestly, 5.7% isn't a lot. In the grand scheme of things. It's a good start, but it's not a lot. And that's just the way it is. If you're making minimum wage, or even making $10 an hour, 5% isn't that much. 50 cents. Right around there. 57 cents to be exact. So, that's not that big of an increase. But, okay, let's, for example, most of the people in my company, are true employees, our crew members, our associates in the stores. They got what, for a small to medium business, would be a really big pay raise. It's $3 an hour, which is a good increase. And that should be celebrated. We are now paying, most companies are now paying close to a living wage. So I'm here to tell you, even $15 an hour in reality, you can't raise a family on $15 an hour. You just can't do it. But, okay, so back to point. They were celebrating that and how that was awesome. Our government was celebrating that, all sides, for the most part. But the reality of it is nothing changed. Okay, and you're like, well, yeah, but we got pay increases. Well, everything else went up also. And my best example of that is go to the grocery store. Pay attention to the big picture. Go to the grocery store. Okay, your wages on average, just say you got a 5.7% pay increase, and you're now making $15 an hour. All right, that's great. Before 2 years ago, when the pandemic hit and things started becoming short supplied, and your recession was what it is today, a gallon of milk was under $2 a gallon. It's about $1.89. If you went to a fancy place, you were going to pay $2.29. I can't get milk at my local grocery store for less than $2.89. There are places that are selling gallons of milk for $7. Yeah, $7 for a gallon of milk. I mean, it's not even like special milk. It's just vitamin D whole milk. So, hamburger is the same way. Your standard 80-20 mix of hamburger, which if you don't know what those mean, the 80-20, 73-27, 90-10, it's the meat to fat ratio. Okay, so, I mean, when you buy 80-20 hamburger, you're getting 80% meat, 20% fat, or some byproduct, although they quit putting most of the byproducts in when the pink sludge stories came out a few years ago. So now it's just pretty much meat and fat, which you need that to cut into the meat to make it, hold together, so to speak. You wouldn't want to make a meatloaf with a 93% meat, 7% fat. It would fall apart. But that meat, we'll say, was $3 a pound. And then it went up from there. I mean, they have a 70-30 one also, but I don't ever buy it. It's just way too much fat for me and unnecessary. So, and then it was like 50 cents more, to $1 more a pound, depending on how high you went up the scale of meat to fat ratio. So you paid more for more meat and less fat. Well, now that $3 a pound of 80-20 went up by 33%. Because it's $4 a pound now when it's on sale. I'm looking at all the I look at local ads every week. Chris does do some grocery shopping, but I do a majority of the big haul shopping. It's more convenient that way. I do it while she's working, during the day. That way I can do it in the mornings. When there's nobody at the grocery store yet, nobody has to fight a crowd. We make pretty detailed lists, things like that, but what good is a 5.7% average pay raise when the average cost of meat, just meat, has gone up 25%? The average grocery has gone up by 9 to 10%. I've heard as little as 4 to 5%. I don't buy that. And I don't buy that on the fact that my grocery bill is tripled, and we don't really buy that much. To feed my family and run my YouTube channel, to buy the stuff to cook and bake with, we were spending on average $400 a month. Which you're thinking, wow, that's a lot. But we feed 4 to 5 people every day. That's 3 meals a day for at least 2 people, and dinner every night, and my YouTube channel. Well, it actually is great. I know people out there that have a family of 4 that spend $600 to $700 a month. This is pre everything falling apart. Okay, $600-700 a month, where I was spending $350 on the high end. And that includes toilet paper, paper towels, garbage bags, things like. I mean, that's everything. That's the whole kit and caboodle. If you can buy it at the grocery store on the grocery side, because now everything's a superstore. $350. Shampoos, conditioners, soaps, laundry soap, paper plates on occasion. All that. $350, $400 a month. And some families, $600-700 a month, depending on where you shop and what you get. So we were doing well, but now my grocery bill, not buying anything different, nothing's changed on my end as far as what we purchase. We are now up to $600-700 a month. That means my grocery bill has almost doubled. But nothing's changed on my end. And so that 50% increase or 100% increase in my grocery bill, let's just say that's your grocery bill, and you only got a 6% increase in pay, it doesn't. You're still on the losing end of things. Nothing's changed. And that's just groceries. Let's not forget cost of insurance, utilities, natural gas prices has gone up, electricity's gone up, your rent has probably gone up. Well, no, it hasn't probably. It has. In 2 years, rent on average across the U.S. has gone up 30%. 30. But you got a 5.7% increase in pay. So what did we attribute this to? And this is the last thing I'll talk on this because I really want to talk about one more thing that just blows my mind. It is definitely a step backwards. But what do we attribute this to? Okay, well, in some cases you can say pandemic causing, lack of ability to get things to grocery stores, to the retail stores. You could say it's because we dumped a bunch of money into the economy, which offset the balance we had between the poor, middle class, all three stages of middle class, upper class, and super rich. People weren't prepared. Companies weren't prepared for people to have money, and on top of the fact they couldn't get stuff to the stores. That's probably part of the problem, too. COVID deaths, seeing as we're about to hit 1 million people dead due to COVID, that is some contribution to it. There's a lot of little things that made this up, and then of course you've got your mainstream media outlets, both sides, scaring people to death with, different things, which drive up demand on certain products at any given time. There's a bunch. So maybe instead of, we need to figure out what we're doing wrong. So I think when we have people go to the food pantry, which are necessary, me and Chris have been there several times in our lives, we hand them some tools to make it right. I think that would be a good place to start. But my main complaint today, this is just mind-boggling, and I'm hoping that this is not going to I'm hoping these two don't pass, and I'm hoping this doesn't set the tone for the rest of our country. And I just heard about this morning. Chris brought it to my attention with one of the people that she follows on social media. But there are two bills. Well, one is a Senate bill in Oklahoma, okay? It's Senate Bill 1470. And what this bill does is it forces all their teachers to put together their curriculums and plans for their teaching and have it pre-approved ahead of time, which, okay, that sounds fair, right? Except for those plans cannot affect anybody's religious belief, okay? Parents can have these plans changed, by filing a complaint. If the teacher does not change the learning plan, the lesson, for each plan they don't change or a parent doesn't agree with based on their religious beliefs, the teacher is fined $10,000 per plan. Now, you're talking about an industry that is struggling to get people to teach to begin with, all right? We struggle getting educators to begin with. Now, in this particular state, they're saying that you have to follow a very narrow guideline. And if you deviate from it, one parent disagrees with it, $10,000 out of a salary that's probably only gets paid about $30,000 to start with. There are some teachers out there that make a fair amount of money, but in reality, no. Only because, quick explanation. Teachers are much like pizza delivery drivers or anybody who delivers for a living and uses their own vehicle. Yes, it sounds like you make great money. I know at one time when I was delivering pizzas, I could make easily $150 in cash some days. Not every day, but on average, $70 a day in cash plus my wage. Well, it sounds great when you go, I make like $23 an hour as a pizza driver. It sounds great when you say, I make $50,000 as a teacher. What they don't tell you is the cost of what that costs. So as a delivery driver, I had to pay for my own maintenance and upkeep on my vehicle, tires twice a year, oil changes every week. gas in my car. There was some offset to that. For every delivery I made, I got, $1. But $1 a delivery when you're only making 12 a day, that doesn't pay for oil changes, anything that breaks on your car, and tires. It just doesn't. I mean, that's a fact of life. You know this going in. And your car insurance, car payments, because you don't want to buy a beater car to have it break down on you in the middle of a shift 3 weeks after you bought it. So there's a lot that goes into that. Teachers, same way. They have to buy everything for their classrooms. They have to buy, help provide stuff for the students. There are students that can't afford paper or pencils or, anything they need to be able to teach their plans. All right, so now we're saying in the state of Oklahoma, that if you don't conform your plans to what they think is right and what a parent thinks is right, you're going to be fined $10,000 for your plan, and you're not allowed to borrow money or crowdsource the money to pay the fine. If you do, you will be fired immediately, and you will lose your teaching license for 5 years. Wow. All right, so then you've got Indiana. All right. They have House Resolution 1134. Okay. And this thing has 3 things that a teacher needs to do. They have to post their lesson plans online for everybody to be able to see, which is fine. Sounds reasonable, right? You have to allow all families to put their input into your lesson plans, and they have the right to opt out of taking that particular class or being a part of that class on that specific day. If they don't like it, they will be forming this resolution will allow them to form an advisory committee for the curriculum on the plans, which will make up 60% parents, 40% teachers. Okay? Which, okay, that sounds fair too, to some extent. But the plans have to be scrapped. No questions asked. If it will make a student feel uncomfortable, guilty, anguish, or is based on sex, race, national origin, religion, or ethnicity. Now, you could say, well, I mean, that makes sense. Sex, race, national, you don't want to offend anybody, right? Herein lies the problem with both of these things, when you can't teach about any of those things or make somebody uncomfortable. I have the same problem. I have a theory on anxiety. I think people, because it seems like a lot of people have anxiety anymore. I think it's because we didn't push our kids, your parents didn't push you when you were younger to be uncomfortable. And I know there's going to be a ton of people that disagree with this, but to make you feel uncomfortable to see you succeed. You can't always succeed with easy. Easy gets you nowhere. Uncomfortable will get you somewhere. If it's something new, it should make you a little uncomfortable when you do it the first time. I think that's what will help you get over the anxiety as an adult. It's like peanut allergies. If you fed your child peanuts as a kid a little bit at a time, chances are good they're not going to be allergic to it down the road. There's even scientists and doctors that speak on that. But anyhow, back to these 2 incredibly horrible bills. Part of the problem with this is, and I'm not calling them out because they're Midwestern states based on solid far-right Christian values, but all it takes is 1 or 2 families to say, I don't want my child to learn about slavery. Because then you wouldn't be able to talk about slavery. You wouldn't be able to talk about the beliefs of different cultures, different religions. It would cause such a narrow-mindedness that you're basically saying, in this case, I want you to believe this one narrow-minded thing. I don't want you to think for yourself. There's not an option there. And when it comes down to brass tacks, yes, teaching is education in school is about learning things, but it's also developing who you are and giving you possibilities of what you want to be and how you want to be as an adult. And what they're doing here is eliminating that. That's what it comes down to. If you can't teach, let's say, that something that, sex, can't talk about sex. How are you supposed to learn that, in school? Are you as a parent going to be responsible enough to teach your child about sex and, all the repercussions and blessings that come with that? Are you going to be the one to teach them about all the diseases that can happen? By doing these things, we're eliminating our history. Okay? History isn't always great. Most of the time it's negative. We as a country put other races in prison camps, through World War II. We as a country, have enslaved people. And now we're saying we don't want you to learn any of that. Do you know what happens with that? 6 generations from now, we lose, we don't remember, we repeat. We can't forget. That's what it comes down to. I think these are the most ignorant things in the world. When you want to pass a Senate bill that says, even though we know we are lacking in the people to take care of the education of our children, we're going to fine those who do want to do this $10,000 if you don't follow this line. That is just one step away from being a Nazi. That's what that comes down to. The Nazis said, if you don't believe what we believe, we're going to put you in a gas chamber. We're going to burn you. We're going to work you to death. We're going to kill you, is what it comes down to. What we're doing here is saying, if you don't teach exactly the way we want you to teach and have our children believe exactly what we want to believe and not give them any ability at all to think outside of the box, we're going to basically kill your pocketbook, and cause you undue stress. So what happens then? This is just the beginning of a breakdown of our educational system, especially if more states adopt this, which they're starting to. You look at Virginia. Virginia is doing almost the exact same thing by not, saying that you can't teach anything that might closely resemble critical race theory. Well, first of all, critical race theory is only taught in colleges, and it's a class that if you take it, it's because it's required for whatever it is you're going into. It's not taught in high school. It's not taught in elementary school. It's not taught in middle school. We don't teach, we are horrible about teaching diversity to begin with. There's so little of it in our educational system now. And now, because of these 2 bills, we're going to start making it a lot worse. Our society is crumbling to begin with. I truly feel in some ways our democracy that we have worked so hard to achieve is at the beginning of an end. I even heard a guy talk about, Chris heard him talk, and she told me about a gentleman who thinks that democracy is a failure and that we should go back to the way the Egyptians did it with Egyptian law. Because then you had one person who had all the say, and that he was in charge of taking care of his people. But why? All it takes is one bad person. You get a ruler that's bad, boom, done. People are dying. There were a lot of people that died in Egyptian times. Never mind the fact that every society that has let the government do a majority of the work for them has failed. Every one. That's why Egypt's no longer a powerhouse. That's why, Greece is no longer, the Romans. Pick a subject. We're headed down that direction now. They became narrow-minded. They became reliant on their government. And I'm not saying the government should be kicked out of our lives altogether. Not by any stretch of the imagination. There's a lot of good things they do. But maybe we should back the fingers out of the pie a little bit, in that aspect. Maybe we should rethink the way that we're doing things in that aspect. I mean, I'm really disturbed by the whole educational piece. Why would I would never ever send my kids to school to a place that was so narrow-minded. I would move. I would leave the state. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's what those states want. But why? Why would you want your child to not learn about different things? They've made it so because they are kind of the Bible Belt of the world, or at least part of it. They're cramming Christian belief into education and government, and that should never happen. Religion should never take no religion should ever take precedence in society. Not like that. You should always have the right to, be informed about all things and make your own choices. That's what makes us each unique. That's no different than some of the countries overseas that cram religion down their throat. We're just one step away from killing our own because they don't believe in that particular style of Christian moral values. Who would want to? So anyhow, all right, I'm off my high horse, but I really wanted to talk about those Senate bills, celebrate that teacher in North Carolina, and talk about the half celebration that should have been done on the news with the jobs report. Because those three things were really two things were definitely eating at me. The Egyptian thing, that's mind-boggling in itself. We don't want to head back there. I said this 1,000 times. Communism on paper, socialism on paper, is not horrible. It's the human element that makes it horrible. And democracy can be the same way. Democracy on paper is beautiful. It's the human element that can make it bad. And right now, it looks like we're headed towards the bad, and we need to stop this. So we need to make sure our kids are fed. All right? We need to give people the tools to make sure that they can do this right. And we need to open up our eyes and not be so narrow-minded. That's what is causing a collapse in our system. That's what causes racism. That's what causes inequalities, social inequality, everything. Any inequality. These are the things that cause it. And we're headed down the wrong path. I guarantee it. So anyhow, I'm done ranting. I have taken up a half hour of your time, which is probably going to turn into at least 40 minutes. So tomorrow for dinner, I'm still not quite sure what we're going to do yet, but I guarantee it'll be something amazing, I'm sure. At least I hope. Thursday for desserts, I had talked originally about doing a good humor strawberry cheesecake. And my plans changed a little. I think instead, we're still going to do a cheesecake, but it's going to be an Oreo cheesecake. And I per an idea that one of my friends on Facebook had given, I had put out there that I thought about, maybe putting out 2 or 3 cakes a week for sale, which would kind of help, offset things here, or better balance things here. There's some things that I want to do for the channel, and, we're trying to save to purchase this house, or a house at any rate. And that would kind of help, in my mind. But I'm not tooting this on YouTube so everybody goes, oh, I want a cake. But anyhow, one of my friends had responded, what about an Oreo cheesecake? And I thought, oh, what about an Oreo cheesecake? It just so happens I've got a bunch of crushed Oreo crumbs that I've acquired, and I can do that. We can do it together. At least try it. Why not? So Thursday we're going to do an Oreo cheesecake, and I'm going to make her one just for giving me the idea, if nothing else. Wednesday, I still don't know what we're doing for dinner, but we'll figure it out. So until tomorrow for dinner, I love you. I love you very much, and I care more than I think any one person will ever know. But I do love you, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart, or I wouldn't say the things I said. Tell somebody else you love them, and you love them very much. It'll make their day better. I guarantee it. It'll make them feel a whole lot better. Right now, the country needs a hug. I think a hug and a spanking. Both. So tomorrow for dinner. All right. I'll talk to you later. I love you. Bye.